The first time the drums rolled through Ogirinya at midnight, the baobab trees shook as though they too had heard a secret. The sky was thick with harmattan dust, and the moon's face hid behind a veil of cloud. In the village square, children clung to their mothers' wrappers, eyes wide, listening to the echoing beat. Goom, 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 drums at this hour, whispered one old woman, her voice trembling like dry palm fronds. It is an omen. But the villagers of Ogirinya had long forgotten the old ways. They had let their griots grow silent and their sacred stories fade. Only one person still knew the meaning of the drums. Adaku, the last surviving daughter of the shrine keepers. She sat up in her hut, beads of sweat on her brow though the air was cold. She heard what others could not. The drums did not just beat. They spoke. And what they said was this: beware the one who drinks from the calabash of anger. The gourd cracks and spills fire. Adaku rose. She knew whose footsteps would follow this prophecy. Ekene, the blacksmith's son, whose heart had been boiling for years. Ekene was known across the Omu River as the boy with the strong arms and the patient hammer. In the forge of his father he shaped iron like clay, bending it into farming tools, spearheads, and the ornate anklets brides wore for their dances. But though his hands were steady, his eyes burned. When he was 12, his father had been accused of stealing gold dust from the chief's storehouse. The elders had tried him under the iroko tree, and before Ekene's eyes, they stripped the old man of his blacksmith's title. His father swore his innocence until his voice cracked, but the chief's warriors dragged him away to work in the mines of the far hills. He never returned. Ekene's mother died 2 seasons later of grief, leaving the boy alone with nothing but a hammer and a hut. That was when anger entered him. Not loud anger, quiet, simmering like coals under ash. He still worked at the forge. He still greeted the villagers with the polite nod expected of an orphan. But at night, under the iroko tree, where his father had been shamed, he whispered to the dark, "I will not forget. I will not forgive." Unknown to him, each whisper was a stone thrown into a hidden well, whose waters ran deep and dangerous. One evening, as the sun dripped red behind the savannah, a stranger entered Ogirinya. His cloak was woven from goat hair and lined with cowrie shells that rattled softly as he walked. His eyes were the color of storm clouds. He came straight to Ekene's forge without asking for directions. "You strike the iron with skill," said the stranger, watching as Ekene shaped a hoe. "I learned from my father." Ekene replied without looking up. "Then you must also know how to strike." "A heart," said the man, smiling thinly. "For anger, like iron, can be forged." Ekene stopped his hammer mid-swing. "Who are you?" "Call me Nwanzi," the man said, laying a pouch of black powder on the anvil. "I bring gift to those wronged by chiefs and elders, a powder that wakes the hidden fire." Ekene's breath caught. "What fire? The one already inside?" "You," Nwanzi whispered. "Mix this with palm oil and smear it upon your arms. It will give you strength beyond any man's. With it you can tear down the iroko tree that witnessed your father's shame. You can break the chief's compound like clay. You can avenge." Ekene stared at the pouch. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. "And the cost?" Nwanzi smiled. "Anger has already cost you your peace. Why not let it pay for your power?" The hammer trembled in Ekene's hand. Ogirinya was preparing for the Festival of Masks, when ancestors were believed to walk among the living. Drums rehearsed under the moonlight. Women dyed their cloth with indigo. Hunters oiled their skins with shea butter. Ekene worked tirelessly, forging the bells that dancers would tie to their ankles. But at night he sat alone with Nwanzi's pouch. He poured a pinch into his palm. It glittered like ground charcoal mixed with fireflies. Adaku, the shrine keeper's daughter, saw him one night at the river bank and approached quietly. Her beads clicked against her neck. "Ekene," she said, "I have heard the drums of warning. What are you holding?" He clenched his fist. "Nothing that concerns you." "I know that powder," Adaku said softly. "It is Adu Ikpo, ember dust. It feeds on your anger until your body is its vessel. Once you use it, you cannot cast it away." Ekene's jaw tightened. "Did the elders warn you? Did the same elders who destroyed my father send you?" "No," Adaku whispered. "The ancestors did. Your father's spirit weeps because you stand on the path of fire." Ekene turned from her, his eyes wet but hard. "Leave me." "You would not understand." She wanted to say more, but the wind rose from the river, scattering her words. She left him, praying to the ancestors to guide him back. The Festival of Masks arrived with drumming and ululation. Masqueraders in raffia skirts and carved wooden faces spun through the square, embodying spirits older than memory. Children threw kola nuts to them, and the chief sat on his stool, smiling grandly. Ekene did not join the crowd. He sat in his hut, smearing the ember dust mixed with palm oil onto his arms and chest. It burned cold at first, then hot, then like 1,000 stings. His heartbeat thundered like a war drum. He rose, his muscles trembling with a new strength. He walked into the square. People gasped. His eyes glowed faintly red. He went straight to the iroko tree, and before all wrapped his hands around its trunk and pulled. The tree groaned. Roots cracked like bones. With one heave, he toppled the sacred tree. The drums stopped. The chief rose, his face pale. "Ekene." "What madness?" Ekene turned to him, voice echoing unnaturally. "Madness? Or justice?" He leapt onto the dais and seized the chief by the throat. Warriors rushed forward, but he flung them aside like straw dolls. The crowd screamed. "Confess," he roared at the chief. "Confess you framed my father." The chief's lips quivered. I did not," Ekene squeezed. The man's face darkened. "Stop!" cried a voice. It was Adaku pushing through the crowd. She held a calabash filled with water from the ancestral spring. "Ekene, this is not justice. This is the ember dust feeding on your rage. Let go before it consumes you." For a moment his grip slackened. He saw her eyes full of tears. Then Nwanzi's voice hissed in his ear, though the man was nowhere visible. "Do not falter. Anger is your power. Without it, you are nothing." Ekene snarled and flung the chief to the ground, turning instead to the palace. "I will burn it all," he shouted, and with one blow of his fist, the wooden gate splintered. Fire erupted from his hands, racing along the walls. The people fled, wailing. Masks fell, bells jangled, goats scattered. Above it all, the drums began again. Not celebratory now, but a frantic warning beat. By dawn, the chief's compound was ashes. The iroko tree lay like a dead giant in the square. Ekene stood amid the smoke, his skin glowing faintly like heated iron. His eyes were hollow. He had expected to feel triumph. Instead, he felt only emptiness and a hunger for more destruction. The ember dust whispered within him, "They all doubted you. They all wronged you. Burn them, burn all." Adaku approached slowly, holding out the calabash of spring water. "Ekene," she said gently, "drink this and let the ancestors cool your fire." He looked at her. For an instant, the boy she once knew flickered behind the red eyes. But then Nwanzi appeared behind her, smiling, unseen by others. "She seeks to rob you," Nwanzi hissed. "She fears your power. Strike her down and be free." Ekene's hands trembled. He raised one, fire crackling at his fingertips. Adaku closed her eyes. "If my death will end this, so be it," she whispered. "But know this, the anger you hold is not your father. It is a snake that eats its own tail." Something inside Ekene shuddered. Memories surged, his father teaching him to hammer iron with patience, saying, "Fire is a servant, not a master." He dropped his hand. "No," he rasped. "I will not harm her." Nwanzi's smile vanished. His form wavered like smoke. "Fool," he spat. "You think you can refuse me now? You are my vessel." The sky darkened. The ember dust in Ekene's veins blazed, twisting his muscles. He screamed as fire burst from his chest, forming a great flaming serpent that coiled. Around him, Nwanzi's true form. The villagers watched in terror as a serpent of fire rose above the square, hissing, eyes like molten gold. Its voice thundered, "I am the anger of generations. I am the ember you fed. Now I devour you." Ekene fell to his knees, clutching his head. He felt himself being hollowed, his body becoming the serpent's shell. Adaku knelt beside him, chanting an old incantation her mother had taught her, a song to call the cool rains. "Rain of ancestors, fall on the ember, quench the fire. Save the child," clouds gathered. A sudden wind whipped through the square, scattering ash. But the serpent hissed, and the clouds fled, the rain evaporating before it touched the ground. "You cannot quench me with water," the serpent roared. "Only by letting go can I be starved." Ekene heard the words as if from within himself. He realized the truth. The serpent was not an external demon. It was his own anger, given shape and power by Nwanzi's ember dust. He remembered his father's face, not at the trial but at the forge, smiling, telling stories. He remembered his mother singing lullabies. He remembered laughter, not pain. Tears streamed down his face. "I release you," he whispered. "I release my anger. I release my vengeance." The serpent screamed. Its coils loosened. Flames sputtered. "I forgive the elders," Ekene said louder, his voice breaking. "I forgive the chief. I forgive myself." The serpent writhed, shrinking, its fire dimming. Nwanzi's shape flickered within it, howling, "No, without your anger I am nothing." "Then be nothing," Ekene said, and opened his hands. The fire collapsed inward, a silent implosion. When the smoke cleared, only Ekene knelt there, trembling, his skin darkened, but no longer glowing. The Iroko tree's stump smoldered, but the sky had cleared and a cool breeze swept the square. For many days, Ekene lay between life and death. Adaku cared for him, feeding him millet porridge, cooling his forehead with she oil. The villagers at first feared him, but slowly they returned, bringing gifts of water and food. Even the chief, limping from his ordeal, came and knelt by the hut. "I wronged your father," the old man said, tears on his cheeks. "It was my greed. I feared his skill would outshine mine. I framed him. May the ancestors forgive me." Ekene listened, eyes closed. At last he said weakly, "I have already forgiven." The chief placed his staff at Ekene's bedside. "Then when you rise, be our new blacksmith chief. Teach us patience again." Ekene shook his head. "I will forge, but not rule. Let the village choose a leader who seeks truth, not power." Adaku smiled. "You have learned the lesson your father wished you to know." He opened his eyes and looked at her. "I would not have without you." A season later, the villagers planted a new iroko tree in the square. They carved a small iron symbol at its base, a hammer crossed with a calabash, to remind them of the night of fire and the day of forgiveness. Ekene stood beside Adaku, watching children dance around the sapling. "Will it grow tall?" A boy asked him. "If it is tended with patience," Ekene said. "Like anger, a tree grows with what you feed it. Feed it bitterness, it will bear thorns. Feed it care, it will give shade." Adaku added, "The ancestors have given us another chance. Let us honor it." The drums began again, but this time their rhythm was gentle, like rain on a roof. They spoke words only a few still understood. "He who holds a coal of anger burns his own hand. He who drops it walks free." Ekene smiled, feeling the breeze cool against his healed skin. He had dropped the coal, and though scars remained, they no longer burned. Years later, storytellers in the region would gather children under the new iroko tree and tell the tale of Ekene, the blacksmith who let his anger become fire and nearly destroyed his people. They would end with a proverb now carved on the trees. "Trunk, the gourd of anger holds no water. Drink from it and you swallow flames." And the children would nod solemnly, glancing at the hammer and calabash emblem, and promise to tend their hearts as they tended the tree.